joining us for our final virtual networking event in our Unleash Your Inner STEM series. I'm Roberta Rincon, and I'm pleased to represent the Society of Women Engineers as a host for tonight's activities. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Northrop Grumman for supporting this event. We hope that you will take full advantage of this opportunity to meet new people, learn more about science, technology, engineering, and math pathways from our fabulous panelists and facilitators, and make connections with others attending tonight. Before we get started, I want to provide some tips to help you make the most of tonight's event. First, if you run into any technical issues, you can let us know by typing your question or issue into the chat on the right-hand side of your screen, or visiting our organizer table on the left-hand side of your screen during the breakout sessions. Please note that there are two different chats, one where your comment will be seen by all participants, and one that will be seen only by those sitting at your table. This will be important to remember after our panel session concludes when we have our breakout sessions. If you have any questions for our panelists, please use the Q&A function that will appear during the presentation, and our moderator will do her best to get your questions answered. We have an exciting program for you, so without further ado, I'd like to get us started by introducing the moderator for our panel session. Prasha Dutra is a TEDx speaker, award-winning podcaster, a top career coach for women in STEM, and a full-time product development manager. Originally from India, she moved to the US less than 10 years ago to live her American dream. Prasha hosts a very popular podcast called Her STEM Story, which features women in STEM from around the world. Her mission is to help women in STEM believe in their brilliance. Prasha will moderate tonight's panel presentation around our theme of unleashing your inner STEM and take your questions for panelists. I'll turn it over to Prasha to begin our panel presentation.
Hi, Roberta. Thanks for having me. Thanks for a lovely introduction. Always a pleasure to be in the company of such incredible women engineers, and especially thanks to SWE and Northrop Grumman for organizing this. So thank you again, everybody who's here, and I'm excited to introduce the panelists. And what I recommend is, if you guys are already here, please, as I introduce you, come to the stage. You can turn your camera on, and we'll go from there. Before we start the introductions, I would love to just talk quickly about the event schedule. So I will have this moderated panel presentation for about 45 minutes, and then we'll have two breakout sessions. Each are 20 minutes each. So once we have concluded the presentation, just hang in there. The organizers will put us back to where we were right before this. And then you can click on the tables and be able to network and talk to the panelists plus our amazing facilitators as well. And then give us, right after those two sessions, we will have some closing remarks, and you can still stay longer for informal networking. So that's our schedule for today. And okay. So, okay, my mic is on, right? Sorry, just making sure my mic is off. Yes, your mic is off, my mic is on. That's what's important. So let me just introduce today's panelists. I'm so excited to talk to all of them and help you all find out the secret to unleashing your inner STEM. Courtney Cunningham is our first panelist, and she is the secretary for NSBE Houston Professionals, a certified EIT, on her way to a PE exam, and holds a bachelor's in civil engineering from the University of Mississippi. She works as a transportation design engineer for Freese and Nichols. Courtney's goal this year as the secretary for NSBE is continuing to spread the word about their Houston chapter and push their social media to the next level with more interesting content. In her spare time, Courtney enjoys walks with her dogs and traveling with her sister and friends. Hi, Courtney. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to be here.
I love that. So our next panelist is Elizabeth Rivera. She's an undergrad student at University of Arkansas, Little Rock, and is pursuing her Bachelor's of Science in Computer and Electrical Systems. She's an Army vet, SWE Section Treasurer, Professional Development Lead for African American Affinity Group, and a former technologist. She passionately advocates to close the gender gap in STEM and has herself found inspiration from being a SWE member for a long time. Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I love that. And before we get into all the fun conversation, let me introduce our third and final panelist, Cleo Weber. She's a SWE Rocky Mountain member, a mechanical engineer, and a propulsion engineer for JUNO and MAVEN at Lockheed Martin. She's passionate about doing outreach for getting more girls in STEM, and she passionately advocates for women in STEM as well. In her free time, she really enjoys sewing and sews a lot of quilts, which is super cool. Hi, Cleo. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this.
Oh, this is so great. So let's get started. And I think this is so great. And I have continuously told the organizers at the amazing job they have done to make this panel diverse, from not only from a diversity standpoint, but also from the diversity of experiences and where we are in our journeys, which helps a lot for people to understand different stages in STEM. So before we get started and before we talk more things about unleashing your inner STEM, I would love to hear your story of how did you guys get interested in STEM, and we'll start with Elizabeth.
Okay, I was first interested in STEM as a young child, actually. I've always loved math, and I've always just been a part of technology. Just growing up, I joined the pre-freshman engineering program out of San Antonio, Texas, and I did that for a couple of summers. And then after that, I went on to high school and joined the technology program there. So I've kind of always been a part of STEM in some kind of way. And then once I graduated, I moved on to the military, and that's where I served 8 years as an information technology specialist. And so now I'm in school going for my bachelor's degree in electrical and computer systems engineering.
Wow, that's amazing. As I was going through your work, I was like, wow, how many wonderful things you've done and how many amazing experiences you have.
Right.
I'm sure you have so many amazing things to share with us through that journey. I can think about so many questions to ask you tonight. So
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes, Cleo.
So my story is more of a non-traditional as well. I was very interested in science whenever I was in high school, but after high school, I dropped out of community college about 3 times, and then I started working full-time as a admin assistant, and I got super bored at my job because it was really easy and it didn't require any brain power. So I kind of was looking around and figuring out what I wanted to do. And I always remembered my favorite scene from one of my favorite movies, Apollo 13, is the go, no go for launch. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, how can I do that? And so, yeah, I then figured out, okay, I need an engineering degree, would be preferable because I could do literally anything with it. And here I am now, graduated with my mechanical engineering degree last August. And I do exactly what I wanted to do, just a little bit differently. I do mission operations for JUNO and MAVEN, their spacecraft in the solar system. And so even though I'm not doing human space flight, I'm still doing what I wanted to do, which is being a flight controller.
Yeah, and you're on your path. I mean, you're on your way when we have the next human flight to Moon or Mars. That'll be awesome. Oh, that's so great. Courtney.
So when I was probably I was probably like in first grade. I saw a Nissan car commercial where they had the white lab coats and they were designing the car. And I was like, ooh, I want to be that. Like, that looks so cool. And my mom eventually told me that. She said, I think those are engineers. And so ever since that day, I was like, I'm going to be an engineer. I didn't know what type of engineer. I just knew I was going to be an engineer. And so when I got my scholarship to the University of Mississippi, I made sure, because I also played D1 volleyball, I made sure that my coach knew, like, hey, I'm going to be an engineer. We need to figure out which one I cannot do, but that fits the schedule. But I don't care what you say. Like, I have to be able to do this career. So I was able to get my civil engineering degree from University of Mississippi, and it's been stuck since like a child. Just a car commercial had me wanting to be an engineer, and I just knew I had to be good in math and science from what my mom told me, and I just kind of stuck to it.
I love that. That's so interesting. And I think so many of us, and your stories are amazing because like you said, you've been interested since you were a kid. I was interested since I was a kid, but then a lot of us were interested, but then decided to go another path, but then found our way back into maybe what had, sort of excited us in the past. So I love that all of us have that little bit of that transition that, a lot of people are afraid of. So what would you, and to begin the conversation on this topic, I think before taking that transition, were you guys scared? And this mostly for Elizabeth and Cleo. And what were you scared to go be in the army for 8 years and decide to take this path? And if you were, then how did you overcome it? Oops.
Wait, Cleo, would you like to?
You both can go.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I was working a full-time job, and I started taking community college classes again. It stuck this time, and I ran out of classes to take at night and on the weekends. So I kind of had to make the decision whether to quit my job or quit school. So it was really scary to kind of have to make that really big life decision. Because while it wasn't like a great job, it was still a job that paid my bills that I needed and allowed me to do things. So yeah, it was definitely scary to do it, but I'm so glad that I did.
Elizabeth?
Okay, so I was a junior in high school when I decided to join the Army. And I had to wait until I became a senior to leave, to go to basic training. So I was extremely nervous to leave home and be that far away because I've never, been away from, my hometown, my parents. So, but once I made the decision, it was kind of, I was out of there from there. So, I mean, I enjoyed the experience and I learned a lot along the way. So.
And so then when you were transitioning from the Army to back to STEM,
civilian?
How was that?
Okay, so the transition, it was long. It was a long transition outside the Army, and I'm actually have been out of STEM for like 7 years now. So
Exactly.
Right. So now I'm trying to get acclimated back into the workforce, and it's definitely an experience. It's kind of nerve-wracking, especially during COVID too. So, but
Yeah.
I'm meeting a lot of people. I'm kind of getting out there, kind of just networking and doing what I know to do to make it work to get to where I need to be.
It's the resilience, right? You just have to bring it on, like,
Yeah.
Especially if you're a minority in these rooms, in these offices, in these professions, it takes another level of like patience. So Courtney,
Yes.
what has been your experience on, and everybody can join this conversation, but in terms of maybe being the only person in a lot of rooms, or you were in a civil engineering, right? So before I started doing her STEM story, I didn't even know a lot of civil engineering women, and then I started seeing all these people on Instagram, and I was like, whoa, like there's so many incredible women in civil engineering, but that's not a field that's so male dominated. I would think it's probably single digit numbers, I would think, in civil. So tell us how do you cope with it, and what kind of resilience does it take?
Let's see. I feel like every company I've been to, besides my last one, I probably was the only female. I was the only woman on the team. So it's always been, I know right away to kind of just make my presence known is how I like usually make my way through it. I always, I'm quick to ask questions, get a feel for the team, and then I always find some way to relate. And even when I can't relate, I just kind of like, I'm just very confident in just myself. And so I will start the conversation. In civil engineering, at least, I know a lot of the how do I say this? I feel like everyone's very introverted. People don't want to talk, and I feel like because I am such a social butterfly, which is not a norm for engineering, that has worked in my favor because it gets people to open up a little bit more and talk to me even though they don't want to talk to me. So I feel like I kind of force it upon people like, hey, I'm here. And that's been my way of coping. I've always kind of been in situations where I'm like usually the only minority. At least that when playing volleyball growing up, that was kind of my situation. And then I just transferred over to being the only woman in certain situations. So I've always kind of known how to maneuver, but I just have to be more like, you have to make yourself known, or else it's very easy to go under the radar and just be kind of quiet. And you can't play that game when you're the only one. So that's kind of how I've been able to maneuver through it.
That's amazing. Elizabeth or Cleo, would you like to add?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of going through the same experience now at the University of Arkansas. I'm the only female in the engineering program.
Wow.
So, it's a few of us, but the communication, working together, the team, it's kind of difficult to kind of have a real good learning environment whenever you're trying to have some likeness and to work together and to just learn. So I'm kind of dealing with the same thing, just being the only female and minority at that. So, but I'm super friendly. So I talk to everyone, so I mean, coming from the military as well, like it's not difficult to kind of just, whenever you get somewhere, just to make friends and to, just to kind of just build on top of that. So that's kind of it's helped out a lot.
Yeah. And I think in school settings, and I'm sure everybody has felt this, but in school settings, when you're in certain groups where it's only guys and you're the only girl, then you are the one who's putting the presentation together. And it's like, can I say something?
Or kind of just being pushed to the side of what to do or what task, to kind of, they kind of just take control. So you do have to make your presence known and, and let them know, like, I'm here, and I can do just as much as you can. So
definitely a challenge. Yes. Cleo, what has been your experience?
So similar to everyone else, I was one of the few girls in my classes. There's a lot of people in my mechanical engineering program at Texas Tech, and there were a fair amount of women, but you still, like, once you break it down into classes, you're still one of the few women there. But I really found with SWE, I have like my own little network of women, and it's really cool because they're all like multiple disciplines. Me and my, we call ourselves SWEsters, but me and my 4 other SWEsters, we're all different majors, and we all are still really good friends. We're all going to go to the conference together, and we're talking about visiting each other and just that kind of camaraderie that you have of like us versus them, but like not in a bad way. But just kind of like that, that the people that you're with are going through a very similar experience as you, was really helpful for me.
And I think SWE has done a phenomenal job at that, right? Like, it's a really old organization, and all the, I wish I had SWE. I mean, I had known about SWE when I was in engineering, but I think everyone's experience here, I'm sure the audience resonates with that as well. So now a lot of you talked about how you cope up in these situations, but coming to the topic, which is unleash your inner STEM. So let's go around the room and talk about what does that mean to you, and how do you sort of unleash it in your personal life. When I sort of think about it, I think about the authenticity you bring, or that you bring in your full self, trying your best to not blend in, or how do you really find yourself in STEM, is how sort of I translate it. But I would love to know your thoughts on it and how someone can start their journey towards it. And anyone can mute, or I can pick somebody too.
Okay, I'll start off with that. I think once you find your passion in whatever field that you choose to be a part of, I think that you should just hone in on that and just try to seek opportunities to develop your skills, so so you don't fall back into the shadows of of not of having a lack of confidence and stuff. And I feel like that's a good way to to kind of unleash the energy behind the passion behind what you want to do and what you want to accomplish as an engineer. So just keep enhancing those skills and practicing and working towards your goals and setting those goals and making sure that you you reach them, and setting the short term, long term, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Courtney, go ahead.
I'll also say, and adding to that, confidence is such key. My first year, I remember, well, right now I'm natural. I have natural hair. But when I started in this industry, I did not. I was very timid about my hairstyles. I was very timid about how extrovert I can be. And it wasn't until I met someone, she is like one of my mentors, who told me just be yourself and just you will go far just being yourself. Do not let anyone tell you how you can wear your hair. You can do it however you want to. And I finally got my professional headshots this year. I mean, I waited way too long to get them done, but I finally updated my headshots so that it does have my natural hair. And the more I was confident in showing like my personality and that I'm here to stay and my knowledge, and being very specific and like showing them like, hey, I can be here, I can wear my hair like this, I can dress like this and still hang with you guys. I think that is key. Like just having that confidence within yourself, because if you can show people why you need to be in the room, they have no choice but to respect it and want to see you there and thrive and help you get to the next level as well.
I agree.
Love that. Cleo.
Yeah, definitely. So in a different way, I like to color my hair. My hair is blue and purple right now. It was teal before that. And for me, it's another form of self-expression. And I was kind of nervous to color my hair like it is now because I'd always done very dark colors. So they were very more muted and more conservative with still being a little bit of color. And I looked over the employee handbook because I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I got to make sure that it's not against the rules. And I'm pretty sure it's not, but just in case. And yeah, I mean, it's great because my company doesn't really have a dress code. It's more of dress for the area that you're in. And as long as you're not really distracting, which is a little tricky just because it can mean different things to different people. But yeah, I feel more myself. And whenever I feel more myself, I am more confident, like Courtney said. The confidence really is key. And the other thing is that imposter syndrome is a huge thing that I deal with. And I know tons of women deal with this. And one of the things that helps me is that even though I might feel like I don't know what I'm doing, nobody else thinks I don't know what I'm doing. They're all going to think that I'm there because I'm supposed to be there and that I know what I'm talking about, even if I don't feel like I know what I'm talking about.
I love all that. I think so many times when we're thinking about careers, we're looking at jobs and we're looking at opportunities. But if you've been in the field a little bit longer, 2-3 years, why do you start feeling lost? Why do you start feeling like, I don't know, I'm not confident enough or have that imposter syndrome? Is because a lot of times in our attempts to blend in, we're getting away from ourselves. And as we're doing that, we're not serving anybody, right? So we don't serve ourselves because we feel not authentic. and it's the hardest thing to do is to be somebody else. Right? I don't know how easy it is to be yourself, but I don't know that it's very hard to be somebody else. And when it's so hard, then you obviously don't feel like you belong, and now you're like not sure, you're not able to pinpoint exactly what's not working, and then you're so far away from yourself, then it's just harder to like sell anything, to sell the ideas, to talk, to raise your hand. And I think if you can find your way back to your sort of inner STEM or reason why you're in STEM, then you can actually show your authentic self. And actually the whole reason for this gender debate and this discussion is we need your authentic opinion in STEM, right? If we had to do the things the same way we've done it for years, this diversity question will not be in the picture, right? We would just keep going like everything was going. But the problems are getting harder, the solutions are getting farther, the problems are getting more immediate and urgent. So here we are. If you're not our inner self, if you're not our true self, then it's even harder. You guys mentioned a few wonderful points here, which I want to need your help to elaborate on. So I think Elizabeth mentioned something about goal setting and thinking about where do you want to be. But Elizabeth, what would be your advice to somebody who maybe definitely has the imposter syndrome, but also saying that I can't see myself? If you were brave enough to walk into a room where you couldn't see yourself or set yourself up for those goals, but if I don't have that, I need to see somebody like me, what would be your advice to them? How do they come up with these goals if they can't even see themselves in these roles?
I think the best thing to do is search for mentorship, search for, likeness and areas to where, other people resemble what it is that you feel inside, and have kind of one-on-one discussions and chats and just get as much information from them as possible. I think that's always helped me along the way, just, for people who've already walked in those shoes. So, and then, and from there, just, try to, take as much as you can from them, and, along the way, still be true to your identity. And I think that it comes together. Eventually it comes together into, the overall you, to where you can have that, that confidence and that motivation to be able to walk into a room and, and feel like, oh, I am supposed to be here. And I'm doing exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, I love that. Courtney, you mentioned the same thing on mentorship. Tell us, how did you find your first mentor?
I actually had one coworker. She was a part of Houston, and she wanted some of us younger EITs to get involved. And it was at that event that I met my mentor, Latasha Brookins. And she just kind of took me under her wing and kind of just gave me a lot of advice. But it was me stepping out and going to that event that helped. And I had another coworker that actually got me involved with WTS at the time. So I was meeting other women engineers through that program as well. And through WTS, I met my friend Julia Clark, who was a part of SWE here in Houston. So it was like me getting out and going to different events helped me find the mentorship that I was looking for. And just not like, and because I didn't really know anybody, I'm originally from Chicago. I'm living in Houston now, and I didn't really know anybody out here. And I didn't want to pass up on opportunities given to me to go network or to go meet someone, because I was like, this is going to be for my benefit. And even though I was nervous, because I was like, ooh, I do not know anyone. What do I say? I'm probably not the most articulate, because I was my first year out. So I didn't want to embarrass myself, but I was like, you know what? I still have to take this chance, because this is going to be for the better of me. And I might meet friends on top of just meeting people that can help me. I'm going to meet friends. So taking a step out on faith and networking and just going to events you wouldn't normally go to also can help you find the mentorship that you're looking for, because you're going to be in a room full of people that were somewhere where you used to be, and you can ask all the questions that you need to. So that would probably mean how I found my mentor was through networking and just getting out of my element and meeting people.
I love that. Cleo, did you have mentors or allies, cheerleaders, and where did you meet them?
Yeah, so I've had all of them. I guess my first like mentor cheerleader was this guy who works for NASA. His name is Stu McClung, and I did a program called INCOS, which is the NASA Community College Aerospace Scholars, and it's still a program that they do. It's a competition, but you get to go on NASA campus and like do build like Lego robots and like compete against each other. And he was one of the speakers there because at the time he was working on Orion, and I connected with him, and I still we talk on Twitter mostly now, and we just kind of catch up. And my first real mentor was summer of 2018. I was at my internship at Lockheed Martin, and all of the interns on Orion were in like a big conference room, and we had a guy come across the door and say, "Hey, you know, this is who I am. My name is Tim Held, and I do this kind of work. And if anyone is ever interested, like we can grab a coffee or something and like chat more." And so I took him up on that, and he's definitely been a mentor and an advocate for me. He helped me get my internship, my subsequent internship, and my full-time job that I have now through his advocacy and his advice. So yeah, I've had some really good mentors and cheerleaders and stuff for me.
I love that. And I think, there was a bias check in my head. Like I had to check my bias because I was assuming you're gonna say a woman or, a person who's more similar to you. And as you said, a guy, I was just like bias check, like, sorry, I was having biases because we all have biases. And I think this is a great example of, you can find mentors and allies, and you need to build mentors and allies with people who are not like you, or people who are, quote unquote, the majority of the population, right? And I think everyone who's in the industry would agree that we've had our share of like sponsors and mentors and people who really are incredible human beings. Like it doesn't, if we expect to be treated like a human being, we should also allow that opportunity to the other person. A lot of times we end up being in echo chambers and creating those echo chambers where we're just always thinking that we need to just focus on things that are going wrong. But I think there's so many incredible people out there, that you just need to have the courage to be open enough to have those conversations like all of the ladies here have had. It's like, raise your hand, talk to them, go have a chat. There's nothing to lose. Come to the events like this, but don't waste these events. I mean, we have incredible breakout sessions afterwards. Like, don't waste that opportunity. For all this person can change your life. Person can be your next mentor, or they can introduce you to someone, because STEM or not, we can never do anything alone, right? So we need a lot of help from everybody, and those that everybody can be in any room. So one, for the audience, congratulations, you guys have already done step one of finding that mentor, and step two is hang out and ask all of us questions. So moving on to the questions that the audience has sent, and I would love for the audience to send us more questions. I would just read the first one sent by Jessica. She says, who opened doors for you in your pathway to STEM? How can we all open more doors for women and girls who come after us? So who would like to take it?
I'll go. So like I was talking, I had a really good advocate who helped kind of open the door for me to get into propulsion engineering. And that's not something that I ever really saw myself doing. But I really enjoy it. And without his advocacy, I definitely would not be where I am, just because that opportunity wouldn't exist. My organization, my group is pretty small. So even finding out about my group would have been next to impossible within the giant company that is Lockheed Martin. I think that, whenever we have the opportunities that we have, it's our job to make sure other people have those opportunities too, and, you know, more opportunities, because, you know, we want this to be a snowball effect where the more, you know, you see a few women, but then you see more, and then you see more. And so then it's just, well, we're half the population. We should be half of the people in this career field, you know, and I think that opening those doors for people will help make that happen.
Yeah, for sure. I think paying forward, right? Sharing your story on this stage, and also supporting and being a part of organizations like SWE. And, you know, I think so many of us here do outreach and, you know, do things on the side. So I think people are doing a lot of work in this space. And as I said, the importance of it is also something we have to convey in the field, that why is it important, and, you know, how can we have more of these conversations. You'll be surprised as you walk this path. And you know, I've walked it for about 4 years now, and snowball effect is the only word that comes to mind. It's like it just keeps becoming a part of your life, and you do more of it, and at least be able to represent, you know, people who are not traditionally represented in the field. So so thanks for that answer, Cleo. Does anyone else want to add to that, or I can go to the next question? Good. Awesome. So let's move on. The next question is, what do you see or believe will really make a significant impact to attract more women in STEM professions? Yes. Go
Okay,
ahead,
I
Courtney.
will say for that is the example you want to see. And just like, I feel like the more we promote, the more we go out, the more we do outreach, the more we can encourage younger women to want to be in STEM. I think if we can just continue to find those connections, go talk to schools, and just try and find ways to just give back and reach back, I think that that is a way we can kind of get more people, more women, and just get that going. I feel like that's a good way, at least a good start. I don't have a solid idea of how to just like be like, go for math, go for science, without sounding like a nerd. But I do remember speaking to kids one day and telling them like being a nerd is cool. Like you don't have to think of it in a negative light. And I feel like the more we can like get younger women to understand like being smart is a cool thing. It's a really cool thing. You don't have to think of it as a negative. Like, and that maybe if we can get that stereotype out there, like saying like, hey, yes, a new stereotype, yes. And we all don't look the same, and getting them to see like, hey, I'm here, you can be here too. Hopefully that will help push the motive as well, at least in my opinion.
It's a heavy problem. It's a heavy question, right? If we knew how to do it, we would have done it by now. Yeah, but I think that really significant impact also, to your point, is that, you know, this unleashing your inner STEM. If you can be yourself and enjoy yourself, I'm sure others will follow, because they will see that I don't have to compromise myself in this space. I don't have to become somebody else. And I think media has such a huge role to play, and, you know, in this whole discussion, right? Like my favorite example is, and apparently they've done studies on this, right, to just go a little bit off tangent, but they've done studies on Big Bang Theory and the effect of Big Bang Theory on how women or girls see themselves in STEM, because of the pathetic stereotypes that they have shown in that show, right? So if you're a waitress, you're cool, you're sexy, you're pretty, you're this, you're that, and if you're a scientist, look who you are. Yeah. Right? So I think that and for 9 seasons, they went on and on and on and on. And it was the 9th season when they finally woke up and tried to give Amy a Nobel Prize. So I was like, okay, too late to change course now. But there's a lot of that, you know, we grow up with. And as you said, Courtney, like the Nissan commercial stuck with you, the other part also sticks with people, right? So I think definitely media has a huge responsibility, and us all sharing our stories, I think, is extremely, extremely important to start that impact. But Elizabeth or Cleo, if you want to add something.
I agree. I think that's one of the things, like from being younger, that you don't get a lot of it. You know, you don't get a lot of visuals of women just in science in general. So I think that the outreach and being able to connect with the younger generations, I think that will help out a whole lot, because I know that if I kind of had that type of guidance and you know, just visual of you know, other women doing what I enjoyed and was interested in at the time, because I kind of just stuck to sports and, you know, kind of just going to go to work and, you know, just leaving the house. So I feel like if I would have stayed the course, then it definitely would have, you know, worked out. I mean, not saying that it hasn't, because I've jumped back on the STEM track, but I think, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that just that outreach is important, and I kind of try to do it just with my friends' children. You know, I try to let them know and try to inspire them and let them know, like, it's actually pretty fun. You know, it's a lot of great opportunities. You know, science is not bad, math is not bad. Consider engineering for one. Consider, you know, just branching out and not following the trend of careers and, you know, what comes easy to you. So I try to, you know, it doesn't even matter. I just any room full of children, I just try to, you know, try to inspire them to just go for it.
I love that. Would you like to add anything to that, Cleo, or we can go to the next question?
You can go to the next question. I pretty much said everything that I would want to say too.
Love that. So I think this is a question here from Florence, and I am going to try to translate it, because I think what she's trying to ask is, you know, based on what you're doing day to day, is it still what you had expected from your career, or your day jobs have not delivered to your expectations of working in STEM? I agree. I could go and I could literally say the first few days I was not happy. I was like, I'm in a room. Like, can I go on the factory floor, please? They're like, no. You have to study all this and all this and all. And I'm like, oh, when will I get to work and get my hands dirty?
I can agree with that. The first couple days of just being a civil engineer in roadway was all CAD management, like doing the line work for all the plans, like red lines, no design at all. And it wasn't until probably like later into like maybe like 4 months in did I get to actually design something and like start using some standards. But it took a while to get to that point, because it's not like you just jump in and you start designing stuff. No, you have to work your way up. So I would say that was one thing that I didn't expect, even though I probably should have expected that, because I'm not signing anything, but I did expect to be able to design like right away, and that is not the case. I will say I didn't expect how much client relations was a thing, and having to communicate with people and even entertain people. That is a real thing in the civil industry, because you want to win work. You have to get to know people. You have to put yourself out there, and you have to get people to like you. That was a side of it that I'm happy about, because I can play into that. But I did not know that was a thing until getting into the industry. I didn't know that was like networking to that level was something that you had to do. So that was unexpected, but a good one that worked for me.
Love that. Cleo, you want to go next?
Sure. So, yeah, I think that what I do is not necessarily what I had envisioned whenever I was going to be a flight controller, but that's actually a good thing, because what I was expecting was like chaos and like running around and like you got to solve all these problems, and you don't want that when you have spacecraft. You want everything to be nominal. You want everything to be fine. You don't want problems. So and I was actually on console for the first time last week, and it was like, wow, this is kind of boring. But again, that's a good thing. And it's also, I I do like that I get to affect spacecraft that are millions of miles away. One of the spacecraft that I work on is orbiting Jupiter. And so I like knowing that what I'm doing has a real effect. And that can be hard sometimes whenever you're just starting out or you're in a really big engineering firm. It's hard to see kind of how you impact something. But with this, because my group is smaller, I can actually see how I'm like impacting. So I really like that, even though it's not exactly what I had envisioned.
And there's no way to know, right? And I think this is why the outreach that we were talking about, like, you know, a day in a life or a video here or information on like what are what do these careers entail? Because we have nowhere to know. I mean, again, our media is pretty screwed up, so that doesn't help. But yeah, that's also great. And yes, there is very less you can't expect based on your experiences in media or your thoughts around things. You got to just go in the industry. It takes some time to get used to it. People are not going to trust you because these professions are, you know, a lot of money is running on projects. There's a lot of like resources involved in this safety, like civil, you know, and, you know, even with spacecrafts and stuff, like just making sure that we don't lose all this taxpayer money halfway in the year. So there's a lot of responsibility, and that only comes with a little bit experience and time. So we're going to skip Elizabeth and move on to the next question because we only have 3 minutes left. So in this last question, this is a great question around sponsor and mentor. So I would love if we could talk a little bit about how do we qualify to have a sponsor? What should we do what can we do for a sponsor to believe in us and take that step in moving forward? And the additional question to that is, do you have a sponsor and also have a mentor? So I guess maybe the difference between a sponsor and mentor, and the second one could be, you know, how do we find a sponsor? Because we talked a lot about how do we find a mentor, but I guess we could talk a little bit about how do we find a sponsor. And Elizabeth, you can go.
Okay, so as far as a sponsor, how do you find a sponsor? Let's see. Okay, so I'm new.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, because I'm kind of, you know, I'm new to the engineering field. So
I'm thinking too, like how do you?
Yeah, but you know, like I said, you know, I said previously, it's joining these networking events and letting people know, you know, exactly what it is, you know, where you're at, and you know what you need in your development process. So that's that. I mean, to me, that's the best way to kind of get your needs out there and kind of just, you know, move forward with that, and just, you know, just be as thorough as possible, you know, whenever you're looking for your sponsorship, and you know, just ideas and tips to get you to the next level.
I think one of the things to remember is also the fact that intra company networking, I think we forget that so many times, right? Like this is great, this is external, but if you want sponsors in the space, in your career, in your job, in your company, there's so much networking that goes within the company. Picking the phone, talking to the person, like Cleo was saying, you know, so many people joined, she met through being in the space. So very, very important to find that sponsor in that company, and then also, you know, asking for what you want. I think very, very important. If you don't know where you're going, how are people going to sponsor you, right? Courtney, go ahead.
Yeah, because I met a lot of the people that I would consider sponsors, or people who vouch for me to get to another job position, all happened through networking. Through Houston Engineers Week, I was able to, I'm one of the youngest members on the committee, but because of meeting them on the committee, one of my friends hired me to work at my last company. And I was there for at least close to 2 years. And then when she left, a guy that I worked with at a previous firm, and one of my best friends, they both worked at the same firm, and they had an opening, and they both wanted me to get here, so they pushed my resume. So you can definitely intra network, as you were saying, because people will see your work ethic, people will know how hard you're doing, how hard you work, how good you are at your job, and they'll want you to come work with them somewhere else. And I've had that happen twice. And if I do tell any of the younger EITs that I work with, I always say networking is key, and always putting your best effort is key, because people will see it and you won't have to job hunt, the jobs will come find you.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I think we'll close this session with this sentence, which is, if you unleash your inner STEM in your workplace, the sponsors will come looking, because everybody wants a good worker. Everybody wants results. And if you have results to show for, if you have the authenticity to recreate those results again and again, then there is no other option but for people to want you in their teams and push you forward. And of course, network with SWE and all of us in the breakout session. So with this, we conclude the panel for tonight. Make sure you stay for both the breakout sessions that the organizers will now put us in. You can double click on the tables to go to your respective tables or different tables as well. So thank you so much.